welcome to Creative Block. We're your hosts, VEE
and SEAN. We interview people in the creative industries about their life, work, and hobbies while we doodle jam.
We ask people on our social medias like YouTube, Patreon, Discord, Instagram, etc. if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts.
Today we have with us Nick Edwards. Hello,
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello.
I feel like I need one of those like old like medieval bugles. Like, when did you? Thanks. When did you first realize you were into like medieval stuff? A lot of your drawings are pretty peasants rolling around in the mud and stuff, right?
Yeah. I would say Horrible Histories, the books.
Yes.
You ever read those?
Yeah.
I loved those when it's been 8, 9, 10 or something reading those. And is it Dan Brown or something Brown, the guy who illustrated them? I remember trying out like the science ones and some of the other ones, but it needed to be the one specific guy and his drawings. I love them. Terrible Tudors. Seeing like little drawings of beheadings. Ooh, I want to draw that. That's what.
It makes the beheadings much lighter when they're far away and drawn.
Yeah. That's the power of cartooning. That's something I really only figured out much later when I was reading Barefoot Gen. Do you know Barefoot Gen?
I don't know that one. Is it a comic?
It's a manga. Yeah, it's about Hiroshima and the bomb.
Oh, wait. Okay. This is crazy because every time somebody mentions that manga in English, I'm always like, I don't know it. And then people are like, well, it's about Hiroshima. And I'm like, oh, I know it, but I know it with a French title. It's crazy. It's insane because it looks so cute. Like the characters are so cute.
Yeah.
But then all these like atrocious things are happening because it's people like losing their skin and like having all these like effects from the radiations. Oh gosh.
Yeah. But you realize it's the perfect way. I would hate to see a live action. I mean, I watched Chernobyl and that was horrific.
Yeah.
And it's a similar thing where a manga of Chernobyl or an anime of Chernobyl, you could show kids that. They could learn.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's like you have manga that's like very realistic. Like if you think about Berserk, where it's like very detailed and realistic, and like if that was the rendition for Barefoot Gen, that would be atrocious and very hard to read.
Yeah, like
but like the style, because when was it drawn? Do you remember? Is it like
70s, 80s?
Yeah,
it took him a long time.
Yeah, so it's like kind of this almost like Tezuka kind of style. Yeah.
I've drawn this too big. I have to make it smaller to make it less.
I have to make his axe shorter. I need a shorter axe so I fit. I like. I've never drawn my peasant Sona before. What I would look like as a peasant. I like the idea of just being a little mud guy.
Have you, Nick? Have you studied art in the UK or in the US?
I went to University of Brighton in the UK and studied illustration, not specifically cartoons or animation or anything like that. Just illustration, and it was. Is this the sort of thing I want edited out? It was fine.
Now you're second guessing everything. Is this interesting?
Well, when I did a sort of ask me questions thing on Instagram earlier this year or last year, and someone asked, what is the least amount you can get out of going to university? And it was a really oddly phrased question because it gave me pause, and I thought, the least you can get out of it is nothing. And then on top of that is debt. Is like you will have learned, what you could have learned anyway through doing things.
What kind of question is that?
I made many wonderful friends at university, and it's where I met my wife. That's not there. I don't credit them with that. But good stuff comes from it. It's like, I don't know, I feel like I was buying time. I bought time to keep drawing, and I'm certain I learned a few things, but it's hard to justify for the younger people listening and thinking about this stuff. It's funny to be in an industry where there's lots of autodidacts and people who pick things up online and find their own communities. It's hard to like put a price on that and convince yourself that there's a prestigious school to do. Oh, then now I'm saying that I do work with lots of people who went to Cal Arts and stuff, and I think that gives them something. They have some edge over me, definitely. But
did you feel though, like, I mean, I was just gonna say, because I mean, and that's like a question, like a thing that's kind of important to me, because I'm also like from Europe, and like and I had to like get a visa and everything to come out here. Did you have to get a visa? And yeah, so like the university, I do want to always kind of like tell, I mean, I think most of the people who listen to the show are like in the US, but if you're in Europe, you do have to get a degree to get the paperwork sorted out if you eventually want to work in the US. So I would say like for that, yeah.
You do have to. I didn't think about that. So it's not 0%. I've already now have to backtrack. Degree education is wonderful.
No, I mean, but I'm with you though on the like the debt is it's so hard to justify.
Especially in the US.
Especially in the US.
I paid mine off. Mine was something like 20 grand total maybe, and I'm 10 years out of school. I've paid it off. I'm fortunate, and if I went to Cal Arts or somewhere, that's 100 grand minimum, right? And now maybe even more.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like buying a house almost. Yeah.
And what do you learn? You learn like
you
stuff
do
from
get like
Richard
really
Williams, but huh?
I was gonna say you do learn that, but I think you do get a really good network at Cal Arts though. I feel like every time that I talk to Cal Arts people, like for example, Mike Moon was a professor there, and he was an exec at like Disney and Netflix. So that's the kind of connection you can get very early
pipeline.
On. Yeah.
But I recommend being outside of the pipeline because that's what I am.
That's what you know
so
about.
I say, be the invasive species. You know? Lean into what you have. Don't dream of being an insider. If you're listening to this and you're in, I don't know, Mississippi, or somewhere outside of California, you want to come in and be different than the people that are in that pipeline and use that to your advantage. Is that advice? I shouldn't be giving advice. I don't know anything.
I mean, that's part of the reason why we have you on is to maybe stumble into some advice, even if it's on accident. So it's okay to give advice. At least talking about how you do it. That doesn't have to be the universal thing.
Yes, I should stick to my experience and not get too much speculation. I do like to attack the Cal Arts people though.
Okay,
shots fired.
This episode is so funny. But what is cool though about you and like your journey is that not only do you do boards and directing and like you have like one foot in the traditional kind of like, you know, studio system, but also you've like created shorts and you have your own webcomic and you've done all of these things like at once at some point, right?
At once. Sometimes they all fall on the same weekend and it crushes you. But not usually. Usually, I don't know, I was lucky in that when things were winding down on Fungies, I had time, and that time I put into Kingly. And it was the pandemic, so I had not a lot of other options for things to be doing. And then when we were getting out of that, Pete Brown reached out to me and got me to do a cartoons pitch, and that's how the Ornimal came about. And that was one of the best times ever in my life, was working on the Ornimal and Kingly at the same time, and just thinking like, I've got two things that I've like helped originate, and they're good, and I like them.
Oh, that's awesome! It's
I like working on them. It's a really good feeling, and although they're very different, they're two very different things, and they're both built by the format that they are, if that makes sense. Like Kingly has to be a comic, and the Ornimal had to be a short. and it had to be a lot more collaborative and open and squishy. And Kingsley's a bit more.
When did you realize that there was this sort of connection in between how you viewed illustration, like through storytelling and animation? Because some people keep them very separate, but I do think that comics and animation, storyboarding, all of that stuff kind of like weave in and out of one another. When did you make that connection that you liked story-based illustration?
That's hard. How did I figure that out? It seems like one of those things that is innate, that you are just drawn to. I think I draw in sketchbooks a lot, and I find that when there's a story attached, you can start interrogating that world and those characters, and you can start building and investigating with the drawings, and it suddenly, there's like a reason to do it. It's a bit like, turning your hand into a puppet so you can talk to it, and then you're improvising, and then you're outside of yourself, and you're coming up with stuff that you wouldn't otherwise.
I love you that you bring up improvising. Do you feel have you ever done improv?
I've never done improv. I think that's something that I'm afraid of. It's something that can be a little cringy, and I think the cringe keeps me at bay, and I don't have a very good... I think I should come at that head on, and I would learn a lot. I'm still afraid.
Greatness comes with a price.
My partner is like a natural. I think she's one of the best improvisers I know. I think she's done one or two lesson type things in that realm, but she's always been good at it. And for the Ornimal, I did this beat board for the first pitch, which was just the sort of, the bones of the story. And then I recorded Rosie, is her name, Rosie reading the line. She is the Ornimal. And she would just sort of riff, and she would sort of, and I would, encourage that. And I was being the sort of dry narrator of the thing. And we started sort of playing, and then things came from that. And the whole time, I was thinking, like, this is the way to work. This is fun. This is closer to like Dr. Katz or something, like a looser animated thing. But then I also, you tighten it down later, and, it's not something you can do, or something I've seen attempted when you're at studios. It's never quite that. It's like, I do like it when it's small and you have control and you have time to dream stuff up and follow strange impulses. It feels closer to what my art is.
Would you say that's kind of what your process is on Kingsley, is like taking more time and like kind of letting things happen?
Definitely. I don't force it. That's one of the luxuries of doing a comic while you also work in animation, because that pays the bills, and then there's no pressure on it. There is sort of pressure on it. I felt the pressure when I took like a year and a half to do the next set of Kingleys.
Yes.
But, which is, that's my fault for inviting that audience in and then liking it, and then, having a relationship with them, which is nice as well. But it's suddenly there is expectation, and although that's nice too, and it keeps me on my toes and keeps me doing it.
Well, what was it like cultivating that audience? Because did you see things starting to grow, or when did you start seeing your audience grow around Kingsley? And was that like a new thing for you at all?
Yeah, that was a new thing. I've never had such a great response to something, and it's still something people are complimentary about. And I'll meet someone for the first time and they'll mention it, and that's crazy to me. Just to like, oh hey, this is my buddy, he works on this show, and he'll be like, wait, Nick Edward Kingsley? It's this crazy ego boost that I never thought I would have as a comic artist. You think you're fairly anonymous, and you dream of the grandeur and prizes. That's why we all do it, right? But to get a little taste of it is really, really fun. And actually, Wait, what was it? I don't know if I'm not answering your question, but suddenly it made me think about Heavy Manners and Comics O'Clock. The best thing about last year for me was going to that over and over and seeing different people read comics and hanging out with actual people again in a real space. But that's a part of the community, especially here in LA, where I feel like it's not a lot of opportunities for that.
Yeah.
But Heavy Manners provides that. And
Mikey has been so great at curating all these Comics O'Clock. They're so fun. And they're like free too. Like I don't know, it made me feel like, oh, there's a comic scene in LA. It's like indie and cool. You know what I mean?
It is cool.
So cool.
But but then going back to Kingly, it's funny. I have a funny relationship with the comments and the people. I like to attack, or I like to I'll comment on a comment with a slightly, not rude, I don't want to make anyone upset, but I will correct people or I will try and push certain reactions I don't like, and I do sort of in a weird way. I'm not bullying them. I'm not. What's the right language? I will make an example of someone.
Is that like someone
comment?
Is that like someone comments underneath and like, this comic is bussin', and you're like, no, no, it's not bussing.
I have seen your stories though, Nick. I have seen your stories where you're like, don't share the punchline.
Yeah.
If you're gonna share my comic, don't share the punchline.
That's a recent thing that I regret. I guess this ties into, you were saying, not to peek behind the curtain or whatever, but you're saying about failures in my life, or like times when I fucked up. I think that this is tied to that, definitely. The way I interact online will be my downfall.
Oh, really?
Okay, wait, I want to hear a story. I want to hear how.
Well, the quick version for that Kingly thing is like, I put someone on blast for posting the last panel, and then they DM'd me and said, please don't do that. Like, I'd like your comic. I just wanted to share. You know, they were just very honest with me, and I immediately felt like, oh, fuck. Like, I'm just sniping. I'm not. I don't think I'm this way, but I'm up here. They're down there. And I just
I am kingly, you're peasantly.
Are you, Nick, are you saying you're my lord? My lord?
No. There's no autobiographical. There's nothing to do with my life. It's complete fiction. Any similarities are entirely coincidental.
I think it is funny though that your character is so, like, he's so inept, and I feel like I don't see a lot of comics online, at least, like webcomics with characters like that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so, I don't know, it's so funny because and then everybody around him knows everything that's going on, and they just can't bring themselves to tell him. It's, I don't know, how did you kind of come up with the idea for Kingly? Like, were you inspired by a character, or did you just start riffing, and was it all improv?
I think it just started from jokes. I've always loved incredibly stupid characters. I think that's always like, if you can push that to the new limit of Kingly's special, because he can see things and experience things, and then they can just be gone the next moment, and he doesn't learn, and I do. Now I'm saying I do feel a lot like him sometimes because of that. I think
it's coming out.
I think it's quite a human. It's quite a human thing. I mean, what do you mean though? You don't see that in comics? Do you think you see the opposite? Do you see like capable characters?
I feel like I don't see online. I don't see a lot of webcomics with the main character who's super dumb. You know. And I say that in like a very loving way, but you know how he's just like, he thinks there's like so many good jokes that you have where like he believes that everything is like there forever. Like, that's why it was so touching with, like, spoiler alert for people listening, if you haven't read Kingly yet, pause, go read the full comic, and then come back to this. interview. But yeah, like, you know, there's like characters dying around him and he doesn't ever see it. But then eventually there's a moment when he realizes one character has disappeared, and it's like so heartbreaking because, you know, like for once I don't know if he learns that things are like permanent.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
might have forgotten that now.
it's like a little kid like learning about what death is for the first time. Sort of that sort
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. Oh, I like that joke. There's a joke about, I think it's about actors, or I forget where it originates from, but it's that when certain people walk into a room and they see a bowl of fruit, they think, oh, there's a bowl of fruit there. But when the actor walks in, they think, oh, someone's left me a bowl of fruit. And that's Kingsley, because the world is his. Yeah, I think when you talk about characters knowing more than the main character, that makes me immediately think of Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah.
And how Gromit is solving everything for Wallace, and Wallace is completely oblivious.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like, it's not Sherlock Holmes. There's other things that are like that, where the assistant is actually the one doing everything, and it feels like vaudevillian. It feels old. And
Inspector Gadget was
we
like
repeat
that.
Oh,
I feel like
yeah,
Yeah.
loved Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
Too.
And there's a little bit of like, I don't know if you like that reference, but sometimes I don't know, there's some stuff about Kingsley where sometimes it kind of reminds me a little bit of Mr. Beans in terms of like how he's just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like how he's so, there's like something that's so very naive about him, and that's also kind of sweet.
Yes. Mr. Bean, Blackadder, those are big influences. And people suggest Rowan Atkinson for the voice of Kingsley, because that's also something that people comment a lot and that I would weigh in on. But I would say not Rowan Atkinson, because he's an old Tory, and I don't support his worldview. I think he's quite vocal too, and he keeps being vocal about certain things, and it's like, I don't want Blackadder to tell me about like what's woke. Because he's Blackadder, he's a fool. And that's when I liked him. But now he's, whatever. I liked Jamie Demetriou, who's in a show called Stath Flats, which sounds like gibberish, I think, to Americans, because it's Stath is his name, Let's is renting, and flats are apartments. So he's like a realtor, and he's a complete buffoon as well, and it's a very funny show. But I was going to talk about my great failure. I'm realizing I cannot draw and
no,
talk.
you're good. This is something many people realize.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to cozy up to the mic and tell of. So when the last short I did, Beetle and Bean, that came out, that took a really long time for whatever reason. It started, I feel like I pitched the clean storyboard of that in 2017. When I was working on Apple and Onion.
Oh wow.
And I'll tell a quick, there's something, this is a victory. I'll start with a little victory joke, and then it'll go to my failure. But when I pitched Beetle and Bean, I did a little intro for myself, and it was a good room. It was lots of like people I've worked with and friends and friendly people come to see this. It was a really nice room, actually. It was maybe one of the best pitch experiences I've ever had. But all the execs, the bigwigs, are sat opposite as well. Rob Sorcher. He was the guy at the time. And I said, hi, I'm Nick Edwards. Worked on the cancelled Uncle Grandpa, cancelled Clarence, and the soon-to-be cancelled Apple and Onion. And everyone went, whoa!
Oh my god!
And it turns out not to be true. It took
Yeah.
George was in the room too, and he was, I think he thought it was funny. It's the kind of thing, I love jokes like that, because it's sort of what a joke is for. It's to be cheeky and upset people a little bit, but then they laugh, It's not I hope that didn't. But this is maybe all tied into the same problem that I have, that maybe I'm upsetting people and I'm oblivious, just like King. But then, so that's 2017, and then it takes a while. I feel like there's development at Cartoon Network, and it takes a long time. Or it took a long time, back and forths, and maybe there's some visa trouble. I can't even remember now. For some reason, it's finished and it comes out. Great team, I should say. Lovely working with Nick Jennings and Nick Cross for a bit. Nick Cross left, I think, partway through, and then it was swapped over to Nick Jennings.
I love Nick Cross. I don't. Yeah. He's
legend.
That dude's a genius.
Yeah. You should have him on and find out how the fuck he like animates his own shorts whilst working on other animated shows. It's crazy.
If we can find a way to reach out to him, I would love to.
I'd get him. I saw him. I've seen him. You'd love to as well, I think.
I would be very excited.
Getting the little rundown of how we get our guests on Creative Block. That's how it works, the network. But oh my gosh, that's so Nick Cross was on the team. He was on the team at the time.
He was. It was Mike Roth, Nick Cross, and then it changed to Nick Jennings and Paula Spence, and Patrick Crotty, who Patrick. He did backgrounds for Beetle and Bean.
No
and
way.
He was brilliant. Yeah, it was his first time doing something like that.
What?
And it was really fun. And he gave loads of notes.
Me. That's crazy.
He would do backgrounds, but then he'd like give notes on my storyboards. And I was like, yeah, okay, all right, fair point.
That's so funny.
But that was an experience where I was like, he's right. He's right about like this shot. I laid it out kind of badly. And his background, we do it his way, it fixes that. And it's better. And that's like learning about that kind of collaboration too, like admitting when you're wrong or like being open to anyone telling you.
No, it's healthy.
Yeah. But Patrick's great. And his background's one of my favourite things about that. And the score was done by my friend Callum Bowen, and that's also one of my favourite things. And I worked again with him on All. Great music.
I just want to clarify real fast. So when you pitched for Beetle and Bean, did you pitch it as a show, like as a pilot, or as a short? Because I kind of want to, for the audience who's listening, I want to kind of talk about the difference about what it is like to pitch a show directly and then you get to make a pilot versus making a short that might be a pilot or might just be a short, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think the difference, there's lots of like legal stuff around it. I forget where it was at the time, but there's something about they don't like the term pilot, and I don't think they call it a pilot because that connotes that it is for making a series. So they prefer short, I think. But the difference between Beetle and Bean and the All is that Beetle and Bean was through development at Cartoon Network. So I was working with specific execs, and it was, back and forth and trying to build something there that could be a show that had legs to have more than one episode. Whereas the short is just a one thing. Maybe there'd be more, I don't know, there's no promise really involved, and it's just less back and forth and faster to make because you're not having to okay things. And for me, I prefer to not have to okay things and to just move ahead with creative side.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like that's, as artists, sometimes we have an idea and we just kind of want to make it, and if we kind of like sit around and wait for too long, then it's easy to kind of like lose motivation. I feel like, did you have to make a Bible and like a bunch of other documents to go along with Beetle and Bean?
A more substantial Bible for Beetle and Bean. I think for All it's just a page or two, and that's it. There was, no consideration of whether it could happen again, which is nice. I think, you can retrofit something or you can expand on something if it calls for it, but to be thinking about that before you've even made the thing is a bit putting the cart before the horse, I think.
A lot of work.
Then a lot of work, and then it took a long time. And then part of this problem with this thing is that it came out, the big premiere. I remember they were suggesting it was March. It was from February or March 2020. And they were saying, do you want to go to Glass? Do you want to show Beetle and Bean at Glass Film Festival? Saying, Film Festival? Glass. What does it stand for? Animation, screening, whatever. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I'd love to go there. I've always wanted to like be around specifically those like independent animation people. I don't know if you guys have watched Scavenger's Reign.
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's on my to-watch list, but
It's
so
cool. It's cool, man.
It's cool they did it. I was nervous for a second. There's that feeling like, is the story going to be, but it's all good.
Because it works as a short, and you're like, how would they build this out into a thing? When,
But they did, and they do.
It's awesome.
And also, Sean Bucklew and Charles Huetner had a podcast called Movie Buddies, and I would listen to it, and I would send them questions. And I feel like I'm a fan, and one day I will meet them. And
gonna happen.
I'll be a fan to them. And I'm saying it again now, if they're out there. I'm a big fan. Anyway, I was hoping to go to Glass, and I didn't go to Glass because of, COVID. But I remember it being suggested, and then talking to someone at Cutting Out, and then they're like, yeah, you can't go. And then I was on Fungies, and I remember lending a comic to the writer, John McNamee, and he lent me Lone Wolf and Cub. And I still have his copy of Lone Wolf and Cub. We were thinking like, oh, you'd give this back in a week. I'll see you in a week when this thing blows over. And it's like, 4 years later.
I feel like that's what getting lent a comic is like. I feel like it's like, this is a present to me now. You will never see this again. We probably won't talk again. Goodbye.
And I've not read it. I've just kept it.
You just love having it.
I had a friend who specifically didn't want to lend me comics because I think that happened to him so many times over his life that he was like, I just don't lend comics anymore.
Yeah, makes you shy.
Yeah.
But then Beetle and Bean came out, I think June or July of 2020. And obviously there's lots of stuff happening online and in life then. And I think I was on Twitter then. I mean, I know I was on Twitter. That's what this story is sort of about. And it came out, and I engaged with people on Twitter.
Oh, no.
And it was terrible. It was a terrible idea. And I'm remembering now all my friends saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? And messaging me and saying, stop doing that. And I even started doing it on Letterboxd, which is a movie review website that I like. And people reviewed Beetle and Bean on there. And some kids gave it 1 star. And someone wrote, most boring 8.5 minutes of my life or something. And I wrote the comment, which is still there, I think. I didn't delete this comment. I deleted most of my others. But my comment was, thanks for sitting through the credits. Because 8.5 minutes includes the credits. So it means that they were bored for that whole time. I don't know, stupid. But this is all part of what a thirst for community, but not doing it the right way. Trying to engage with these John Kay fans that are like, animation now is shit because of this, and Beetle and Bean is the symptom of that. And I was trying to talk to them don't say that stuff, or I don't know, even pushing them for more critiques and stuff. And it was I was going crazy, and it was a bad reaction. I felt like there's not that I thought my whole life was going to change when the short came out, but that I wanted a cookie, I wanted something.
Yeah.
And I go looking for it, and then I just get into fights, and it was just it was a real.
But you did have positive reactions to it, though, right? I feel like animation.
But I ignore that.
I did talk to them.
Zone in on the negative feeling and fight the negative stuff.
I just love the haters. I just, it's nice to have people like my stuff, but I really care about the people who hate me.
Well, were there any repercussions to that you could, or was it just emotional repercussions? Just you being like, oh, that didn't feel good.
It was mostly me saying that wouldn't fit. I mean, it didn't feel good to have a teenager respond and say, ooh, mask slip moment and stuff like this, where they're pointing out how I am. They are seeing how I'm having a breakdown, and they're reflecting that back to me. And I am, it's like if a 4-year-old stole your food or something, and then you push that 4-year-old down, and you're causing a scene, and everyone's screaming, saying, "What are you doing?" And you're saying, "They took my food." You're trying to explain why you're attacking a child. Not that these people were children; they were.
I mean, it could be
men and boys, I believe. Some of them could have been. Some of them could have been 6 years old.
Honestly,
oh yeah, you don't know.
I think there's there could because I feel like we always have a segment where we talk about when we were on the show that got a lot of hate. But I feel like there's a moment you realize I'm talking to a 12-year-old boy, and it's like, like they're definitely online. Like that's definitely reasonable. 6-year-old, I don't know if they're typing comments.
I think what's worse is you realize that you're talking to like a 40-year-old person about a show that's for 12-year-olds. And then you're like, well, but your opinion doesn't fucking matter here. I don't know.
Well, Sean, wait, did you work on Thundercats also?
No. I've worked on other things. I worked on Pickle and Peanut was famously hated. Also, I feel like,
right.
But I feel like everybody works on something that was not good. One here or there, right?
It's like, I feel like it's kind of funny to think of like, so I'm going to turn this into a question for you, I guess, Nick, but like when you go on to shows, when you're wrapping up on a show and you're looking for your next gig, what's your state of mind? Like, are you looking for a specific kind of gig, or are you just kind of like, oh, like I'll take whichever next one comes along?
I would be looking for something specific. Now it feels even more specific. The things I was used to, the things that were, now I look back on and are the glory days, the good times at Cartoon Network, going from show to show. There's like multiple shows that I can fit into, sort of no problem. Not no problem, still learning. But I went from Uncle Grandpa, which is like, do whatever you want, crazy, cartoony, fun. Pete being like the most open, most like encouraging, one of the most encouraging people I've worked for. And then Clarence, which was being run by Stephen Neary at the time, and he was also really encouraging. And it didn't take me too long to learn. I feel like I had certain things that you feel like are in your drawing DNA.
Yeah.
I can draw Uncle Grandpa. I can draw Clarence. I can draw. Apple and Onion was a bit tough. Having to learn. Having to tighten it for George. There was a point way later, like nearly when I was finished working on Apple and Onion, there was one joke where it's in one of the shorts that I think I did, like we got to do shorts on our own, storyboard on our own, and I did one called Sleep, and Apple's talking about how he hopes to have all sorts of dreams and stuff when he goes to sleep, and then Onion says, "I hope I don't have any dreams, just pure sleep for me." And George liked that joke so much and was like, "That you've figured out, you are writing the tone of the show." And that was him saying that to me after like months of working with him. And I was like, "You bastard." It was like nice to get that compliment.
It's like a backhanded compliment. Also, like, you haven't got it until now. Yeah. Well, I do think that conversation is interesting. The idea that I think people naturally assume that like people that work on shows, they can just adapt to whatever style of show, and while that is true for some people, there are certain show styles that just do not come as easy. Was that an example of a show that didn't come as easy, or have you had other things that you've worked on that you got onto the show and you were like, man, drawing this is harder than the other ones?
It's a funny one. I'm going to make it sound a bit like witchcraft or something, but you can, depending on your power levels, you can bend the characters to your will.
Okay, yeah.
You can take, or it depends on how open people are too, and like the sort of collaboration levels of the show too. I don't know.
Are you speaking about shorthand? Like
shorthands, yeah, or influence you can actually have. You can if you draw a fucked up enough storyboard, you can change the course of a show. you take the characters. I mean, well, there's example. One of the examples was after Apple and Onion was Summer Camp with Alex Klein.
Yay!
Yay! Previous guest on the show. Go listen to his episode after you're done with this one.
Yes, and love Alex. Hello, Alex, and loved working with him, and we got along very quickly. Our relationship came very quickly. Like by day 3 or something, we were both making loud moaning sounds in the office to make each other laugh. It's moved very quickly. Alex was very good at that.
Not something I would recommend to every person who's looking for advice on this particular podcast, but when you find your moaning partner, you'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I saying? But I don't know if we were just encouraging each other or our take on Oscar, one of the main characters of Summer Camp. But I would make Oscar really stupid in a sort of, maybe even in a Kingly-esque Mr. Bean kind of way. There's one episode where I ended it with him, he spilled something on his trousers and then pulled them down to reveal his tighty-whities or his underwear. And then he starts sort of shuffling because his trousers are around his ankles. He starts shuffling and he falls out of a treehouse and into a secret lair or whatever. That was just a surprise ending of an episode where he's fully a klutz and a clown. And then I don't know how true this is or what, but I remember hearing either from Cole or from Julia that they had execs say, you have to make him less stupid. Like that he'd become too clownish through us doing that, through pushing that, I think. And then they had to wind it back. I don't know how true that is, but I think that was a show that was collaborative enough and they were kind enough to let us sort of mess around with the characters a bit. But that was, Apple and Onion was tough. Summer Camp, not so tough.
I feel like you work mostly on board-driven shows, right?
Right, that's the thing. I think that's why I'd be specific. Look, the show I'm on at the moment is script-driven, and it's the first time for me. And it's very different. I don't think it's for me, if I'm being honest. I can adapt. I will adapt. Well, also when you were asking that question of what do you look for when stuff winds down? It's like, I think we're about to, or we still currently are in the great drought.
Yeah.
And I'll take whatever the fuck I can get is one of my feelings. I do wish for things that I can excel at, but I'll do, I'm 3, 4, 5, 7 months, and then I'll work on Baby Shark, I'll work on fucking anything. That's not true. Maybe not. And I shouldn't, sorry, excuse me for saying Baby Shark, but that's my go-to, thing that I wouldn't be comfortable on. I'll say that. That's fair, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
That makes a lot of sense. I did hear, though, that the TV show, I don't know if it came out yet, but I heard the TV show looks really good. Because it's true when you watch the clip on YouTube, you're like, ah. But then I'm kind of excited to see the TV show. I've heard some really good things about it.
You excited? All right.
Yeah, to watch some clips. I mean, do you guys okay, this is a trap question for all of us.
Oh, boy.
I guess you guys already kind of answered that question because you watch Scavenger Rain. But do you guys watch cartoons?
Right, well, I was going to say, if you watch Baby Shark before you watch Scavenger's Rain, I'm going to have to, I don't know, bully you more.
Yeah, comment on one of his posts and he'll say some mean stuff like...
Everybody
I'll say mean stuff to you online.
Are you team Baby Shark or team Scavenger Rain?
I think I go through phases of watching cartoons, and I think I tend to watch a little bit less American cartoons recently. But I wish that I watched more. It kind of bums me out that you know what? I think part of the reason is I watch a lot of things while I work, and sometimes I feel like I'm insulting what I'm watching by not looking at it and giving it my full attention. And if I'm like working on something while I'm watching it, and sometimes that's how I feel about like I'm like if I'm watching a cartoon, I want to be like watching it, and I feel like that's what that's how I would watch like Suits. Or like just like some like just have something on in the background while I work. So I tend to watch more stuff like that recently. But
I've been driving my partner crazy with how much I'm watching and talking about Fleischer cartoons and old Disney and all stuff like if it's 1940, then it's too recent. And just dreaming of one day like fully animating something all on paper or all on cells or never using a computer again.
You are going back in time.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself more of an animator or an illustrator? I guess I'm asking this question because you do comics, which I perceive as a little bit more illustration-y than animation-y, but you also do boards, and I feel like it's kind of funny because it's kind of funny that Sean and I are the hosts, because I feel like Sean, you're a more animation type of board artist, and I think I'm a more illustration type of board artist where I'm like I don't put as many panels, and I just kind of like
I'm in between, and I'm exactly half.
Is this Goldilocks?
I'm Goldilocks. I'm just right.
Just right.
You're a little too illustration, V, and Sean, you're a little too animation. But me? I'm just right.
You sat in my porridge and it feels just right.
Yeah. I think I had someone ask me a similar question of like having to choose, like choose one or the other.
I'll kill one of them.
I said,
I'll kill illustration or I'll kill animation. You choose.
I would kill illustration. I wouldn't kill comics.
Oh yeah, it would be FMK comics, animation, or illustration.
Right. Yeah. Kill illustration. Ooh, do I marry or do I have intercourse with? I have intercourse with animation, and I marry comics. Yeah, that is definitely the way. Actually,
I'm just imagining like one of those animated like fight clouds, like like just like super wild animation.
I think I would have said illustration or comics a few years ago, but also during the pandemic, I sort of tried to learn how to animate and try to catch up on all the stuff I didn't go to school for, and feeling that the old imposter syndrome of having been working in animation, and I didn't have a student film, I didn't animate, I didn't finish anything myself. I'd done little bits here and there, and I always thought I could do it, and then I sort of thought, I'm going to read the Animator's Survival Kit and I'm going to try and do some of it, and I'm going to do some walk cycles, and at the end of the All there's a credit sequence, and I animated just on paper some characters walking from one side to the other, and I thought, nice, I've done it. I can almost call myself like a proper, whatever my, whatever I need to earn to come into that club. I think I can kind of come into that club now and not feel too self-conscious.
Hear that,
and
animators?
I hope I can go into the comics club.
You hear that, animators who aren't sure whether you need to spend money on a degree? You can just learn it if you put your mind to it and you watch enough black and white cartoons.
If you watch nothing but... Well, that came later too. I'm a real late bloomer on some of these things. I should say that. I feel like, is that good advice for the young people? Late blooming. Nothing better than a nice late bloom.
Yeah.
You really appreciate the bloom when you're old.
I think
this bloom is going great.
I do want to ask you about how you landed your first animation job. How did that came about for you?
think the quick version I tell people, which is, you tell certain stories over and over, and they simplify and they change and they become lies. One of the lies is that, well, it's not a lie. I think this is sort of true. Secret Mountain Fort Awesome was on YouTube. Pete, I think, had put one of them on YouTube, or a clip or something. And I watched that. I was in my second year at uni in Brighton. And I watched it and I thought, this is great. Reminds me of like old, dirty, gross cartoons. And I commented something like that. All the other comments were negative. All the other comments were like, this is gross. I hate this. What's happening to Cartoon Network? All negative. It's the kind of things you'd still get now. People being like, when's Infinity Train? This sucks. But in 2012, so Infinity Train didn't exist then. They're probably complaining about where's Flapjack or where's, I don't know. Anyway, I commented something nice. Pete Browngut saw my comment and he clicked on my name, and that took him to my blog spot where he saw my work, and then he hired me to do designs.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome, because I do feel like we talk on the show about like networking and like, but like, and it always goes to show, just be nice.
Just be nice. It doesn't hurt.
Just be nice.
It doesn't hurt
and
anything.
Genuine. Yeah.
A comment, if you write the right comment, the best, if you are like a poet or something, I think if you can just one line of a nice comment.
Okay, you hired.
Like send an arrow through someone's heart, and they'll remember it and they'll look at it. Which is also, I guess, why when I was talking about getting fucked up by negative comments, I think some people are better at writing negative comments than they are nice comments. And if you could be as good, if you're as good as writing, if you can write a nice comment as well, with the same incision and like, because if you're being fueled by hate, you can write better. You're jazzed. You're firing on more cylinders. Whereas if you're fueled by love, you can be a bit sloppy, when you're in love. It's not the same thing. The writing maybe isn't the same, but whatever. That one comment, or at least I like that story, because the truth is I had already done a bit of work, and I'm not sure how I got it. I'd done some freelance character design for some shorts that never got made, and I forget how those came about. But I also drew Flapjack on my DeviantArt, and Thurup Van Orman saw it, and I think I then did some work. He was working on a pilot for something, and I did some storyboards. That was one of the first storyboards I did, was for one of his things. I think it was Dark Woods, or it was one version of that where kids are fighting robots. And the other person doing the storyboard was Matt Lazell. And I remember seeing his boards and thinking, Jesus Christ, I don't know what I'm doing. These are incredible.
Well, I mean, his boards are so clean in the first pass. Like he doesn't need to do roughs. Like he just does it, and it's and is good already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Now I'm looking at the drawings. That guillotine is so good. You've drawn a guillotine before.
It's efficient.
5-in-1 guillotine.
I studied for this one.
That's so good. New page. I'm on the wrong page.
So right now we got a prompt that was what's your worst fear, and we're each drawing ours. What's your fear? If we can learn the weakness.
V is an unclean shower.
I don't know why. It's like I have like very stressful they're not exactly nightmares, because I don't feel like I'm gonna die, but they're very anxiety ridden, and it's always unsanitary, like public places that are supposed to be places of care or getting clean, if that makes sense. It's like public showers, or it's like hospitals or like that kind of stuff. I don't know that.
Yeah. It's funny because we just had spooky season, watching lots of horror films.
Yeah.
I used to be so afraid as a kid. I had so many fears, but they've all sort of numbed myself. I watch lots of horror films and I feel like quite detached from feeling scared. Watched Hereditary the other day, and when the mum chases him up the stairs, that's still one that gets me, because I remember I had a lot of nightmares when I was younger where my mum wasn't my mum, and Babadook too. It's this sort of someone you love changing and then wanting to hurt you, and you sensing that is really horrifying.
Yeah, I had a dream. I had a recurring nightmare when I was a kid, which was basically my mom would come home with basically in Alien when he's just like a little baby and like popping out of the tummy, and that, so she would come home but with that version of the alien. So it would still be kind of cute because he's so small. And she would come home and she'd be like, but look, he's so cute. Can we have it? And that was the only one I was like, it's gonna kill us all.
Yeah. That says a lot,
I know, right? I like
one inviting in a caustic.
I'm just scared of sawing off my own head like in Hereditary.
Ooh, yeah.
No, I'm scared of my biggest fear is bridges. Driving off a bridge and then the car sinking while I'm in it and I can't get out.
That's a good one.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, drowning sucks.
Can you watch that in a movie, or does that send you over the edge? I mean, I don't know if I have a fear that sends me over the like. Those like those episodes of like Maury where they bring out a jar of pickles and the pickle lady like screams and cries and runs off stage. Like I don't have like a fear that's like that, but I have a few fears where I'm like my butthole is so clenched when I drive over a bridge. Like same with escalators, elevators. Like there's something about like Final Destination like things that
you're worried a Rube Goldberg machine is gonna kill you.
Yeah, that's why I can't watch Wallace and Gromit, dude. He's got those Rube Goldberg machines. I'm like, one of those things is there's gonna be a little teeny catapult that launches something at him.
What about hornets though? I feel like hornets are really scary to me. I think I could like start crying.
There's a hornet that hangs out near we have compost. Just one? There's always a hornet there. Just one. I swear it's the same guy. Big black hornet.
Oh,
and he zooms around. And he's not interested in me, so I'm not too afraid of him. But if he was interested in me, I would I would scream and run. But it's all about what they want.
I think I would be more scared of them if I was allergic to bee stings. I think.
Oh, so you can take the pain. You can be like, it's gonna suck for a couple hours.
Yeah, I mean, all the time I just run through hornets' nests to train and just like harden myself, No, I mean, I've had a few experiences with like running through a bee's nest or something, or and then having to run away because they're stinging me or whatever. But I don't know if it scared me as much as. Yeah, I mean, I think heights are a little bit of a. I don't like roller coasters either. Yeah. Like I don't like tricking my body into thinking it's dying, and I think that I don't know. I'm not much of a thrill seeker.
Nah, me neither. I do like insects. I mean, I like them, but they're a great one for fears, for creepy things. I'd like to use them a lot in stories to creep people out. I also love birds. I'm a big bird fan, and that's something that terrifies. I get lost in them, and I talk about them and tell people about beautiful birds of California. And then someone recently was just like, "Oh, they'd scare the shit out of me, birds," because that's like a classic phobia, I think, along with spiders. And
Oh, really? Like
birds is a big one for irrational fear.
Oh, interesting.
Because they are sort of alien. They're little lizards, you know, they're dinosaurs. They move strangely. They're sort of when they flap me.
Right.
Have you?
And it's also like the eyes, because like they're kind of like almost not that they're not like soulless, but like it's kind of like lacking.
No, it's been confirmed they have no souls. Yeah.
There are no souls.
Only humans.
Only humans.
What?
Only humans are chosen by God.
I mean, have you ever seen like a pelican just like run up to a pigeon and swallow it whole, and it's just like the pigeon is just moving around. It's like neck sack
Pelicans
or whatever.
Are proper.
Pelicans are scary.
They're very prehistoric.
They're scary.
When you go to the beach in LA, you see them all flying, going home for the day or whatever, and there's like 20 of them all with that same like bent wing. They look like pterodactyls.
I think one of the scariest birds is that shoebill. Have you ever seen the shoebill? The one that clicks its beak and it sounds like
and it harms
coconut. It sounds like
children.
Coconuts. Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
If they have two kids, one does better than the other, it'll start like punishing the weaker one until it dies. And when they personify them like they do on Planet Earth or whatever, you really feel it, and they put creepy music behind. Or they can also do that thing where they keep their heads perfectly still when they're hunting, like locked in space. Their heads. That is still
This is a light animation podcast. Welcome to Creative Block. Where we talk about top murderous birds.
That's so funny. I was gonna say, because you're talking about bugs and how you like bugs, because you kind of have like your short and Bean, and like the animals a little bit almost like a bug.
He does look a bit like a bug. I think that's a lot of, especially watching old animation like Silly Symphonies and the old Fleischer. There's a lot of bugs. I think because they're small, easier to draw and easy to read from far away, and I like. Also, just they feel both like everyone knows them, everyone's interacted with them, and yet maligned, misunderstood. The bug.
Well, I thought that scarab beetles crawled under your skin like in The Mummy, and so I was like super scared that there were bugs that just like would crawl under your skin and burrow into your brain, just running all around. Like so I don't know. Maybe I think that there's a lot of, like you said, malignment of bugs in media.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought was about to happen in your grimy shower, V, is that you'd go in there for a shower and then a silverfish would run straight up your butthole.
I feel like silverfish are
I've had.
Okay, I do think bugs entering orifices is very scary. However, I would not be scared of a silverfish because they're actually good for your bathroom. They're good.
Why?
They like
I thought you were gonna say they're actually good for your butthole, okay?
For your butthole, yeah. No,
Maybe.
they eat all the dry, like all the like little skin, or like they eat all of your dirt. Basically, is why they're good. They're kind of like spiders, but instead of spiders eat the other bugs,
they hunt my
they
flakes.
eat all of your, of your. They're kind of gross.
They hunt my flakes.
the most vicious flake hunter.
That's the worst
the
phrase. That's the worst thing I've heard.
We found it. We've been looking for it.
Grossed me out.
Oh my God.
I like that though. Oh, those are just my silverfish.
They hunt my flakes.
Sometimes
Don't worry
they
about
get
it.
really big. Sometimes they can get really big. I think they can get big like your nail.
And then
like
you have to create bigger and bigger flakes, or else you're like, I need to instigate dandruff. like I have to keep feeding these guys. This is so good. This is the grossest episode we've had, I feel like. Was it?
I feel like, I don't know. We're just going off the rails.
No, it's okay. It's okay though.
I'm really enjoying.
Because I feel like a lot of this podcast is just talking like animation shop, and I do kind of relish moments where like I don't like to interrupt the moments where we're just like genuinely talking about whatever with like, okay, let's get back to shop talk, because I mean every once in a while we do that, but it's
I
nice.
was thinking, I had the thought, I had a question for you guys, which was like, what are you into that isn't this? Is that you have things in your life that you're as passionate about, like work and animation and
Oh, you mean something that's not art?
That's not art.
Oh, that's hard.
He's like, what is not art? What that is?
I go through this all the time. Like, I need a hobby, and then I'll like try to think of a thing, and then I'm just like, I guess you could potentially say. I was thinking about it the other day. I think potentially I could say probably psychology, because I listen to a lot of true crime, and I read a lot of like self-help books, and I read a copious amount.
You like technology stuff too. I feel like
I like technology too.
Robots.
Interesting. So you would, if you weren't an animator, you'd be helping solve cold cases?
I mean, I think I would, like, a part of me wants to say yes, but also when you listen to the interviews and like what it actually is like, I don't know if I have the tenacity for it, because you hear these like investigators or like sleuth, and they're on the cold case for like over 10 years, sometimes 20 years. And I'm
too tunnel vision-y
like,
for that. I would, yeah, I would unravel, I think.
Yeah, you need like a special kind of focus for that. And I don't know if I have that, but I would probably be into like be a, I don't know, maybe like a therapist or like kind of a coach or like that kind of thing.
I also wish there was a Sherlock Holmes investigation path where you didn't have to be a police person. Like I wish that was a more like a more available option for being.
No, but this is really cool. This is something that I just learned in one of the millions of true crime podcasts I listen to, is that there is this thing that is called
Vigilante.
No.
No.
Vigilante.
It's like shoot, I forget the technical term for it, but basically you can be trained in DNA genealogy. So basically you can like you're trained in like family trees and stuff, and how to trace people and how they're connected through family. And with the new technologies of DNA, when you have a cold case and you have a tiny little bit of DNA that's left from the like crime scenes,
Yeah, like a little piss, a little speck.
Yeah, like sometimes it can be with the hair, but I just realized that apparently if you don't have the root of the hair, you don't get the full DNA. So if you just get like a little, like if I cut my hair and you get only like the bottom part of my hair, it's not going to be.
I feel like you want to be a silverfish. Is that what you're talking about? You're just looking for flakes? You just want to hunt flakes.
I like dandruff because it's got full DNA.
I should say piss doesn't have any DNA in it.
No,
by the way,
no, I don't.
Unless you ate a piece of yourself. Wait, drank a piece of yourself. Wait.
No.
I think that would be in your stool.
Yeah.
It doesn't have. Also, it doesn't have any.
That's what the kidneys do. They remove that stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it does. I don't think that works. But
I told myself I wouldn't do this either. It's like, get onto topics which I know nothing about.
Just so well, that's the thing. But we want a bunch of commenters proving us wrong, because that means they're commenting. So like, if you guys know a lot about this and you want to comment, like, we love fostering arguments in our chat, in our comment section.
Yes. What does a kidney do? What is in my piss?
I want to. We got like a ton of questions from Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, and I'm excited to kind of talk about more of Kingly, because a lot of these questions are about Kingly.
I love talking about Kingly.
See, I love this question so much, so I'm gonna like ask it right now.
All right.
Blurton627 on YouTube asked if Milord, I can't pronounce it properly. My lord
That's good.
is he redeemable? Milord.
Is he irredeemable?
Is he redeemable? Can he?
Oh, is he redeemable?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take it very seriously and say, if you think redeeming, if you think whether or not a character can be redeemed is like the point of a story, or whether if that's something you're looking for or thinking about, I don't know. That is not something I think about. It's interesting to me. I like seeing how far I can push people away from Kingsley and seeing how, he threatens to kill cute dogs. That's one of the main things I've had him do. And yet people still read it, and one of my friends, Jo, she loves the dogs. And whenever they are featured, she will message me and say, "Nick, my heart is in your hands." These things for me to not hurt the dog, and I'm not going to hurt. It's not, I'm not trying to hurt people, but it's playing with. I guess I am thinking about redeemable or irredeemable. I get the question behind the question there, but it's not a moral play. It's not a moral universe that I'm trying to portray. It is things happen that, there's lots of the dogs now, and now some of them might get hurt. That might be at the hands of Kingsley, we don't know, but I think always redeemable. I think that's like one of the things. Now I'm just going with it. He is redeemable.
Well, I feel
what would make him irredeemable?
Yeah.
Irredeemable would be, I've thought about this in terms of like trying to kill other characters that go on forever, like Spider-Man or Mickey Mouse or something. Like if you made them irredeemable, it would be that they did something that had a real life, like a negative real life effect. I'm not sure what that is. I think I never want to go, this is dark. I never want to go see, although I did. I'd never really want to go see a Joker film or a Batman thing in the cinema in America because I'm afraid of being shot. Is that how you kill a character? Is that how you turn people away from something? Is like, there is such bad vibes around Joker and that I would have to do that with Kingsley. Kingsley would have to become like Pepe the Frog, edgelord, or like cultivate that kind of atmosphere, and then have real world repercussions, like with Pepe, I guess. Pepe's come back. I don't know if he's been redeemed, but
the creator's working really hard on it. I'm really hoping we can get Pepe back because it's really sad what happened.
I think it's coming back around.
But do we need Pepe?
I think it's coming back around.
Yeah, he was just a he was just a stoner, right? Was that the character? It's just a stoner.
It was just a comic character that was a stoner in a comic, and then. But I think that he's becoming more neutral on the internet again. I think it's coming back around.
I haven't watched the documentary on it.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
I recommend.
Yeah, I need to watch it. Yeah.
I have a piece there's a piece of my art that's in the documentary.
Is it?
Really?
Yeah, posted on a school shooting message board. Someone uses one of my GIFs to react to something.
Whoa.
Which is weird to see.
Our cultural impact. I think we do have to think about that as cartoon people. You have to think about.
I feel like this is like your art can slip out of your fingers anytime and you don't know what's going to happen. I feel like I think about this all the time because I'm posting all of my stuff online and anybody could come in and grab any of my drawings and just completely flip the narrative from what I originally imagined with whatever they write on it or whatever, like I feel like I don't know, it's scary, but I feel like I have to tell myself that I'm not in control. Like as soon as I post it, I'm not in control of anything anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Pepe's special, right? Because he came at just the right time. It's always just the right time with those things. Because it's earlier internet. It's sort of, I don't know, Matt Fury, he didn't get in the way of, there's not a self-destruct thing built into Pepe, and he didn't get in the way of his character, you know. It's like, it's a great character, makes sense. It's a great comic. I loved that comic, Boys Club.
I think memes are kind of like an ink blot test. I think that because most of the memes that do the best it's just like basically a blank. It's like a smiley face that other people can put their own relatable, what experience on. Like it's like the blank face that you can put yourself on or whatever. And so a lot of the times when things like this happen, there's not even any irresponsible intent that the artist had, or like even like a mess up that the artist did. It's just the right or the wrong person in this instance found this ink blot and was like, I relate to this, and and the wrong person can post a certain smiley face, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, is that smiley face a secret signal to the alt-right? I don't know, like
I wonder if it's when you say memes that do the best, that makes me think, I don't want anything to do the best. I don't want anything I make to do that well, to slide and snowball, and and we were saying do well. It's like, is it?
Yeah, that's probably the wrong way to no, but the most popular. Yeah, the most wide-reaching. Yeah,
I feel like you must, if you make that wish or you want that to happen, then you're entering into that arena, and it could go badly. But I think my reaction or my feeling with my own work is that just never let the bus go above 60 miles per hour. Just always keep it kind of.
I think it's as simple as like if you drew, for instance, an executioner in your comic, someone could take that executioner and make it the centerpiece of like a revolution attempt, where they're like, let's execute all the leaders. And you like what you wouldn't have any you wouldn't have any control over whether someone did that. It's just, if your stuff is online, your stuff is online, and it's, I guess, all art is at the mercy of the crowds. I guess it's a weird thing, the idea of like relinquishing ownership in some ways of when you put your art out into the internet. It's like, as much as I want to say that I own that, it's sort of out of my hands if someone wants to just do whatever with it. And you see that all the time with like either art theft or like memes or whatever it is. Like, it stops even being related to you anymore.
So I want to mention that on Instagram, Swamp Alex was very excited about you coming on the show, because they asked a lot of questions, and we're gonna get to as many as we can. But I feel like we kind of like brushed a little bit on the like Kingley's comedic influences.
Yeah. Also, Swamp Alex, come on. One question per person. This is something that burned me when I did the ask me anything thing. Some people ask so many questions, but I didn't realize it was all from one person, so I would start answering them, and then I never got to the people.
Oh, right.
Ask me anything, not ask me as many as you want.
But Swamp Alex, you talk. I know this person. I talk to them. They DM me sometimes. We can talk about any extra questions you have. DM me. I'll go through them.
I do like the questions that are like, what inspired it's like the format. They ask vignette structure, but I guess because you draw them as a strip, right? And then you cut the panels for Instagram. Like how do you, and what made you choose that format?
I think just page sizes. It started sort of as so I did this comic called It Had to Be You, which is not a great title, but it's just about sort of blob guy who has a bad time. And it was my first time making a comic in a while, and it was when I was working on, I think I was on Clarence when I came up with the character, but then it was Apple and Onion, and it was the sort of downtime between revisions and, you know, frustrations on working on that show that led to me pushing and doing this comic. And then in the margins, Kingly came out. Well, Kingly came out as a sort of, a bit like Crazy Cat. I don't know if you know about Crazy Cat, but like that was a tiny comic at the bottom of a bigger comic, and then it became the big comic. You know, they start out in the wings as like a little idea, almost subconscious in the back of your head, and then it either gets a good response or you just feel affinity to this character. And there's something very simple about Kingly that just worked. It works as a comic and works for me still because it's small and simple and like never meant to be anything big, but now is still, I'm still working on it, you know, 6 years later. And what was the question?
Yeah, like what inspired its format. That's so cool though. That
Format, yeah. The format came of its own. It chose its format, and I think I had someone also message me recently about like writing, and they were worrying about writing a big thing and how they didn't consider themselves writers, or they weren't sure how to go about it. I never really considered myself a writer either, but I now feel fairly confident in that I can write a joke and I can write a short thing, no problem. But that is writing, and it turns out if you do that over and over again, that's a story, and that's a long thing. And that's just what happened organically. It's leaning into your own impulses. And, you know, I'd also sat on it for a really long time. I think that's another part I have to talk about, is my immense privilege. Always have to start with that. It's like, I had the time. I drew it. I didn't do anything with it. I put out the other comic. That was fine. And then it was during the pandemic where I was like, I'll just show Kingly, I'll see what people think of this. And people liked it, so it worked out really well. And it's like 3 years from drawing it to showing it, which is sort of, it's a weird thing to recommend. If hey, you're like 20 and listening to this, draw something and then forget about it for 3 years and see how you feel.
Like, why did you decide, like, why did you not show it to anybody? I'm really interested in that aspect.
Why did I not show it? You know, I think I've always had a tense relationship with online. And I think that comes back to my talking about Twitter and stuff. It's like, I know it's bad. I know there's something wrong. I know it's also a beautiful thing online. You know, I live far away from my family and I can talk to them through you know, Zoom as well. And also my friends on like Letterboxd. That's like how I keep up with certain friends back home. And the internet has wonderful things you can do with it, but I really am spiky and I don't trust it, and I don't like Instagram. Even though it's my main, you know, that's where I put Kingly.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like that it's out of my control. Someone else is pulling the strings, and it could change any moment, and it would change all this work, you know? I hate Instagram.
well, how about you were asking us if you have hobbies outside of art. I don't know if we ever heard your answer. Do you have?
Oh, bird watching.
Bird watching.
The thing that during the pandemic that I struggled to find. I like music and I like playing guitar, and I wanted to learn piano. Still say that. It's like the thing I torture myself with. But I always struggle to come up with hobbies that are outside, that are not screen and are not inside, you know? And then for my 30th birthday, Rosie got me binoculars and Sibley's West, a book of, you know, a bird watching book, or a book for helping you identify birds. And it was just exactly the right time. And then I just started going out and looking for birds. I draw them, you know, it is connected. Everything, I do connect almost everything to drawing sometimes. Well, no. Yeah. It's hard to think of a non-art thing. Birds, in many ways, are like art. Because they're so beautiful.
They're art that got loose.
That's why when you asked us, like, oh, something that's just not art, I was like, that's a trick question.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed your Skeletal Remains shirt.
Yeah.
I played my band's first show with Skeleton Remains a long time ago.
Did you?
Yeah,
Wow, you sat on that this whole time. You saw my shirt when I came on the Zoom.
Well,
and you not said.
Well, all I could see for a long time was Lethal, and I was like, I recognize Lethal, and so I realized now in the background I was googling their logo. I was like, that's their logo, right?
Lethal.
But yeah, I'm in a band that writes about war history. I'm in a death metal band. So that's what I do outside.
I'm aware of this band.
Really?
I know. Well, Alex would talk about you because he'd know I was a metal guy.
Oh, that's
He's
cool.
like, you should meet Sean. He's a metal guy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, I would love to meet Sean. I'm sure it will
That's
happen.
very sweet.
Look at that. It's happening right now, live.
Right in front of everybody. But yeah, so that's I would say that's my main outlet outside of art, and it's a good one for frustration. You're getting out frustration, and
it's the best.
Yeah.
I was saying the other day when things aren't like clicking at work or in life, things aren't hitting. The best thing ever is to listen to something that is pure hits. It's just pure pummeling.
Sure.
Synchronized fucking
maximalist
noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best. And it is a good app. And I got this t-shirt going to see Defeated Sanity in Chain Reaction.
Yes.
What's it called? That place? Where's Disneyland?
Anaheim?
Anaheim.
Yeah.
Drove out to Anaheim on my own and saw Defeated Sanity. And then I saw them again the next year with a friend. But
that's awesome.
First time I saw them, Skeletal Remains was supporting. And I was blown away because they are like, how would you say? From just listening online before, I was like, oh yeah, death metal, yeah. And then when I saw them, he comes. They have an instrumental sort of track playing, and then he comes out in the dark, and then a blue plume of smoke shoots up in front of his microphone, and he goes, and then it started this show, and I was just like, these guys are fucking great. It was a really good show. I love that.
That's funny. Hell yeah.
Birds and death metal.
Like a very quiet hobby and a very loud hobby.
Yeah. That's true.
I'm going to take it back to Kingly because we have like a bunch of other questions that I think are really cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
From Art and Such Evan ask, what's your process like for making a Kingly strip? How long does it take you, and what are your favorite tools? Because that's cool. You do it traditional.
Yes, which I didn't. When I started doing that, I didn't think that was like a comment or a political stance I was going to have to take. But more and more, I feel like I have to be like, I want to draw on paper. I don't want to draw on the screen. Mm-hmm. I don't want to, not knocking screen. If you like screen, go for it. Animating on screen makes a lot more sense. But I love my Hunt 102 nib. That is a good nib for inking. Robert Crumb used it. Dave Cooper used it. I think that's why I started using it, was because I got really into Dave Cooper's work when I was at uni. And just gives, night, you can really taper the line, and you can really scratchy small, or you can go thick. And ink is just great. Black and white is great. That's all you need. And paper is Bristol board. I don't know. I feel like I've gone over some of this stuff, but I'll take the opportunity to say, drawing for real, and then having originals. It's lovely to flick through and to go over stuff again, or what was the question?
Yeah, what's your process?
The first part was different. Yeah. Process for writing.
Yeah.
That's tougher to describe because I don't do it. I've never really understood. Is it Stephen King that talks about like sitting down and
you just write it
every
day, just do it.
Just write. No, never really worked for me. I think I have to be in the shower, or I have to be really coffeeed up.
It's really hard to draw on paper in the shower, though. I'm sure that you realize
that's true.
Or to write.
You have to hold it. You have to hold that thought
Yeah.
and then fall into the shower curtain and then roll, hit your head on the But the best way the best time, I feel like I was cycling somewhere and I was drinking coffee and I was coming up with thumbnailing out a few Kingly strips that made me laugh and thinking, this is it, I'm doing it. That's the writing part. But then the tough part is everything after. It's like putting it down, putting it on paper, like properly, doing it in red pencil, doing it on the Bristol board, then looking at it, and then thinking about it, then maybe I'll show it to Rosie, and then she'll give me some feedback. God bless her. Or she'll write stuff for me, and I'll exploit her for that, and I'll use that, and I'll credit her. I'll say it. I'll try it now, but it's still not enough, and I still can't. You can never say enough, like, the people who you do not see and do not hear about and do not claim their rewards, much like cell painters in the golden age of animation, all the women, and all the people that help and who do not get the credit because, Walt Disney stamps his name on it at the end or whatever. There's many aspects to writing that I cannot get across now at this time, but do that. Exploit your loved ones, drink coffee, and then you'll have something there. And then the toughest part of Kingly is the sequencing, which I also ask for help with. And it's like how I shuffle all those sort of funny vignettes into something that looks maybe like a story, even though you lose the thread and the plot constantly. And I'm sure everyone is wondering what is happening with the war that I started in the last chapter and these things that I haven't come back to, because I thought that would be helpful to leave threads open. And then I take so long coming back to them that it feels like I'm not good at writing and I don't know what I'm doing, but in fact I do, and it's all part of the plan, and everyone will see when I
do like what you're saying,
reap what I have sown,
though, that you plant all these seeds, because it's a little bit how I started Rodney, where it was just like, I'm just gonna throw a bunch of mysteries, a bunch of like loose ends that I'm not gonna tie up. And now that I want to get closer to the end, I'm rereading everything, and I'm like, I gotta tie this up, tie this up, tie this up. But it's cool because then people are like, wow, you're such a genius. You're like thinking like this long. And no, it's just like, I'm just gonna plant a bunch of seeds and I'm gonna wait. Yeah. Until I
would say it's especially cool if you are measured and you don't plant too many. If you don't set so many traps for future you'll be very grateful. Because I'm a little annoyed with past me, I'll be honest. how many traps I set, how many things I left.
Because you're not supposed to set traps for yourself. You're supposed to set them for other stuff that you're hunting.
Yes.
Which one is like which like little seed did you plant that you're like, this one though, like a little bothered with, I guess?
Oh, that I'm bothered with?
Yeah.
The Jester.
Really? I love him though.
I like him too, but I haven't had as much stuff for him to do. I think he's sort of waiting in the wings a bit.
That's what I like about him, though. I feel like every time you pull him out of your little character closet, we're in for trouble.
Yes, I suppose. Yeah, he brings mischief. He's a phony.
What about?
I think.
Sorry, I was gonna ask you about the goblins. I feel like you had little creatures. Like Kingly was really scared of the goblins, or was it the goblins, or what was it? Yeah,
that's coming back, don't worry.
You heard it first on Creative Block, everybody.
There's things, that's the other thing, it's part of I think the discipline is like realizing you have everything you need to work with in the first few things in the first chapter. Or I expanded on a few things in the second chapter, and there's more work for myself, but if I was really disciplined, I would just be working with that first bunch and be satisfied. But for some reason, you just get greedy and you just start like coming up with characters. And now I'm like, I have to kill these characters so I can move on. And
I mean,
it becomes a very tangled
plague is a good device for those
Yeah,
times,
Plague
right?
is a good device.
for
And it's right around that time. I think I really didn't want to do Plague because of the current Plague in real life.
Oh,
So-
yeah. That
It
makes
gets
a
But
lot
real
of
would be good.
political. Like it's like everybody
Yeah.
who wore a mask like doesn't get sick,
Yeah.
and then people are going to be writing
But if-
in like, "Oh, I never thought that the Kingly would be pro-vax."
Oh no, yeah. I never want to mirror current times too
Sure.
clearly.
Yeah.
But there is a timing there where Plague at the right time would be just right. Like your friend saying, "My wife," like the right distance from Borat. You know when it was
Sure,
first sort of funny
sure.
to ironically say that? Someone hit it just right. Now just saying it then I feel disgusting. You know, it's because it passed its time.
It's so funny. I wonder, somebody also asked if you have a writing schedule. I guess you just
No.
no, okay.
Answered that.
So Angelo
Scheduleless.
Pearson 696, you heard it. No writing.
Sorry. The discipline is a issue.
On Instagram, InkKG asked what inspired you to start working on your own comic?
When, sorry?
What inspired you to start working on your own comic, on your own stuff?
Comes and goes the inspirational, the sort of feeling, the need to express myself. I suppose because I do quite fortunately get to express myself at work in a way. Never always fully, you never get to see that through to fruition. But if I take it way back, it was reading Squee, and an older boy at school lent me Squee with Jonan Vasquez when I was 11. And I'd never seen anything like that. Like a black and white comic all made by one person, which speaks to the sort of megalomaniac desire of artists, when you're like, I can be one person and take all the glory.
Yeah.
I can be the one, and I can do it all myself and control it all myself. And it's, there's a bit of that, which I've learned to not be the case. And I'm sure Jonan, I don't know if he had some help. I don't know if he said, all the people who helped him in his life in the credits for that comic. Or Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
Yeah, we
I
had
read those.
An episode with him, which is really cool.
Oh, yeah, I need to listen to that. Because,
It's really awesome.
I met Gene very briefly after a screening, and I was like, "You're like a Jonan Vasquez guy. You're like one of those. You're of that cloth, which I think I probably don't look like I'm of that cloth anymore, but I definitely wanted to be, and I definitely credit that with a lot. Like I still, Invader Zim. The Invader Zim movie was really good.
Yeah.
I loved that stuff. I love and loved. But it was reading that comic that set my brain on fire when I was 11. And then, I don't know about Kingly. I can't remember really what I was into. I think, late bloomer. When I was late blooming, I late bloomed into manga. And I read Dragon Ball when I was 25 or something. And it just, there's nothing like it. I was reading One Punch Man. I think I read Barefoot Gen as well. And now there's still like great old manga still coming out. Like, I'm going to butcher his name. Yoshiharu Tsuge. Tsuge. Oh, it's so good. It's maybe one of the best comics I've ever read in my life. And it's just coming out. I think it's just come out. Nejishiki. It's got a red cover. It's drawn in quarterly. It's like a collection of his stories. And one of the stories in it, the title story, is like, it's something I cannot describe. It's a bit like watching Eraserhead or like seeing a David Lynch thing for the first time. And you're like, well, this person is on some dream, they are weaving dreams and they are moving through like literature and comics and producing something that you could not teach someone how to do this.
Like only they can tell
And
this
that
story. That kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's the best. That is what I love. Yeah. I love that so much.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I think the feeling is you have your best chance of that with comics because you're not going to have to compromise. Not that compromise is always wrong, but if you want to reach into your own brain hole and pull something out, comics is a good way. to do it.
I love that. It's so true. I feel like comics is so freeing. You can do anything you want. It's so easy. I mean, it's hard, but it's just like you could just do it.
Yeah.
Compared to animation, that takes just such a long time.
Yeah.
You have to listen to people. People tell you what to do.
Little Gabby asked how. So this is kind of funny. I guess I'll ask the second part of the question. Do you ever see people you know or knew in your characters?
Right. Well, as previously stated, I'm nothing like Kingsley. But when I saw that question, it did make me think about Jaren. And Jaren is, Kingsley's aide and sort of his mother and sort of his servant, and it was, an unhealthy sort of work relationship they had. But Jaren's a few people to me. I suppose, should I name? I guess I could say. My friend, I hope he doesn't feel offended or feel anything specific about this, but my friend Ed Cheverton, who is a brilliant illustrator who I used to live with and he went to Brighton University with me. I lived with him, and I was in a especially kind of... Ed isn't like Jaren, really, but there's an innocence, there's something really that I love about Ed and that I love about Jaren, and it's this kind of purity. I don't know, I can't even calling it that. It's not like I'm saying he's a forever virgin or something.
No, it sounds like he's helpful. Is that he's just he's helpful, and then people can take advantage of that? Is that what you're trying to... Yes.
People that break my heart are people that are genuinely helpful and lovely. And when Ed came to Brighton, he said something like, he came from Bath, which is even a smaller, or more quainter town than Brighton. I don't know how to put it, but smaller town. And when he came to Brighton, he said, "Now I've seen everything." He was like, he moved to a seaside town in the UK, and then this is the world. And it was that too about Ed that charmed me, and then led me to pick on him because he was so nice, and I was unkind to him. And then he had, and this is one for one, this is almost exactly in Kingsley. He had a dream when we were living together, and I was picking on him and making him feel uncertain about the world, which is how I amused myself. He had a dream where he strangled me, and he told me about it, which is good. I think that's nice that he told me, and I've since apologized to him a lot about our relationship then, but we're still, friendly and friends, and I love him. But he had that dream, and I think that's
so funny.
That was a sort of, I don't know, I really remember that.
But so Jaren is you heard it first on Creative Block, but is Jaren a man? I thought he was a woman the whole time.
It's something that people seem to speculate on, and I don't feel the need to. You don't need to land on either side of that coin.
I've always, because
it's not.
Important. I don't know. I really relate to. I don't know. Jaren is probably one of my favorite characters because.
Oh, that's nice.
They're like, I don't know. They're just very. I don't know. I tend to write characters. Maybe I project onto Jaren a lot, but I tend to write a lot of characters like that will just kind of eat all the bullshit and just be kind of like, I'll just kind of take it in and it'll be fine.
but eventually snap.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Eventually they snap because eventually they're like, it's gone on too long.
I think that's the plan. Also, Jaren's a little bit my mum, but not also, if my mum ever hears this, I hope she doesn't feel offended by that. Caring people, there are good and caring people. And obviously Jaren's a bit of me too, because they're all a bit of me. I think I have the capacity to care.
I do love, Jaren is kind of, I don't know, I love this character, and you kind of need Jaren anyway to highlight Kingsley. I feel like if you don't have Jaren, you can't have Kingsley.
Yeah, he's definitely Gromit to his Wallace.
Yeah.
I was curious if you do any research for your comic, because it is a period piece, and I was curious how interested in that you are. Like, are you like, I'm gonna put them in like genuine clothes that they wore? I don't know. Like, I was just curious about how much you think about that.
I've read about 150 pages of A Distant Mirror by Barbara Stanwyck, which is a really good really dense. I say I've read 150 pages. That was tough to do. It's like a 400-page book. It's very dense, and it's about France and Germany and England around the plague and around sort of 1300s. But I struggle even saying that. I second guess as I'm saying that. And one of the thoughts I had with Kingsley was I want it to feel accurate-ish, but I can't. I'm not going to limit myself to that. I wish. I also read a lot of Hilary Mantel, which is historical fiction, but very well researched. She did Wolf Hall and Bring Up the Bodies, and the third one, I forget the name. I think it's also got Mirror in the title. But those are incredible books, all about Thomas Cromwell, who was a lawyer and a sort of second-hand man almost to Henry VIII, and had a lot to do with the ransacking the monasteries and changing England forever, changing the religion, sort of dethroning the Pope in a way, and then putting King Henry VIII on top. And it's really that is a great way to. I think that's a good way to learn history. I think I do like non-fiction, straight historical books, but something about Wolf Hall is so entertaining, and it feels more real. It feels hyper real because it is fiction, but it is so well researched. Yeah, I really recommend that. But I've always, in answer to your question, I've always just liked it. I've always loved history, and I would love to think I'm going to have more time to do more research, and I buy a book, and then I have another Barbara Stanwyck book called Bible and Sword, and it's such a cool title. I have not cracked it open yet, but I'm looking forward to cracking it open and hoping that's more about the Crusades. But I love. You have your outlet. Your writing music is informed by history.
So admittedly, I am not the one that does the research in the band, but the vocalist is a history buff, so he'll read.
To outsource it. That is a good idea.
That's the good thing about having a band is there's multiple people. So I write, I write the riffs, but he will figure out what war we're going to cover during this album and research it and write about different generals and battles and stuff like that. So he does the research on that
Cool.
front. But I do, when I do period stuff, I do tend to, I think sometimes it can be limiting, like how much I feel like I need to, how much I need to make the costumes right, and no one's gonna notice. So I was wondering, because I think that if I was doing Kingsley, I would probably get too tied up in I want to use a trebuchet, but that hasn't been invented yet in this, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, in answer to that, I think the key with Kingsley is that there are goblins.
True.
Or are there goblins? True. I don't know, but there is the suggestion of goblins, and that is enough.
I feel like I saw them. That's so crazy.
That's how goblins work. You always, you think you saw them, but did you?
So funny. I felt like I saw them in one of your strips.
You post the comic with goblins in it, and then you take it down overnight, and post it without any goblins in it, and so everyone's like, "Wait, there were goblins there," and you're like, "Were there goblins there?"
Well, I did think about. There's a character that has just come about, Babsy, and the suggestion is that she's always been behind Kingsley, always been serving, but just obscured by him. And I thought about if and when, and hopefully Kingsley is published in a physical form, I would like to cheat and go back in and put her behind him and sneak her into earlier. She is in some earlier strips, but I'd like to put her in even more. I like the idea of, that's a kind of a good thing with something I haven't really exploited with online, is to take a strip down and edit it and then put it back up and mess with people's rereading of it. It's quite actually a good idea.
Yep. So that's a goal that you have, though, is to publish physical and I was curious about what your comics goals were.
Mm-hmm.
I wish the discipline thing is coming up, and I wish I had. Is it discipline? I mean, it's tiring. It's like just to do the comic, I feel is an effort, and then to then have to like shop it around and be like, please, anyone interested, and like print it out and submit and reformat it. I have to reformat it for it to be a physical comic, and I just have not done that.
Funny because your pages look like book pages when you show your originals, but you think they're just...
but it couldn't be. It would be too big. I would have to. They're like, I draw like 4 strips to a page. I mean, I guess publish.
Could you do an odd format?
Like that, but it would be a landscape format for sure.
That's how like Calvin and Hobbes books and stuff are, right?
Yeah, and Nancy and Peanuts. Those are big influences too. I mentioned them. Nancy. Yeah,
you don't need to make vertical just because TikTok doesn't. I know that the way you format is guided by TikTok, but no.
Yes, I think about it constantly.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like Kingly would fit really well in the lineup, like John and Quarterly or like Fantagraphics, and they do kind of all sorts of books, but that's just my...
Would it be, even if it's a quick answer, would it be okay to get your answer to, do you get creative block and how do you deal with it? That's the podcast name.
Oh, I was wondering why I didn't listen to the whole thing with Alex Klein.
It usually comes at the end.
That question was coming.
Yeah.
My initial reaction is I don't get it, which is a short answer. But I think if I do, no.
Are you just a victim to how much time you have? Like, is that the main problem in your life? Just not having enough time? Because you're talking about the discipline thing. It's not a creative block thing. It's just
it's like there's a lot of meat that needs to fit through the keyhole.
There's probably there had to have been a better analogy for this.
No, that's what I'm going with.
You're just pushing a bunch of meat through the keyhole.
I'm in a big steak shop, loads of steaks, and they're all rotting, and I need to shove them through the hole into the freezer.
Gotta fix this door. We gotta fix the door.
I thought it was a real expression. I thought that was like an English idiom.
You're just saying something crazy.
I was I buy it. I'm learning some new way to talk, and then you catch me tomorrow talking to somebody. Yeah, it's just a lot of meat to fit through the
Yeah, it's like shoveling.
It is a lot of meat.
It's like shoveling meat into the coal engine of the train. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna smell good in there, but the train isn't gonna.
Yeah.
It's like if the tracks are made of meat, it's the train's gonna cut the meat pretty good, but it's not gonna keep,
And I am made of meat.
I mean, you are. I mean, that's the first true one. That's the first true analogy.
I need to wait. Let me go back to just.
If you shove yourself through the keyhole, you can. It just takes a long time.
I don't want to do that. I never want to get. I want to have enough steaks that I never have to shove myself through. I think the creative block thing. I don't think if I ever feel like I have creative block, I just haven't searched hard enough for the meat, I think there is always some in the room. There's always some left over, even like recycling old meat or borrowing someone else's meat,
Like our silverfish friend.
Yeah.
Hunting the meat and flakes.
Hunting flakes.
So funny. There's just something.
It's Big Brown.
I feel like meat for me is more gross than silverfish, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, it is.
Well,
I'd rather shove meat through a keyhole than silverfish through a keyhole.
Well, speaking of meat, it was amazing meeting you, and and I think that is going to wrap up our episode of Creative Block.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This has been very. Thank you for indulging me in talking about Kingly.
Of course. I mean, I was really excited to talk about Kingly too. So that's the end of this creative block. Nick, thank you so much for being our guest and sharing your story.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And thanks to our listeners as well. Follow us on social media at CRTV Block, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to our editor, Clemens, for editing the podcast, Marco for helping us produce the show, and Abuka for editing our shorts.
If you love our show, you can support us on Patreon. Becoming a patron gets you early access to interview and access to our Discord community. You can also support the show by engaging with our content, like subscribing to the podcast. I see that a lot of the people who watch the podcast are not subscribed, so click that button and you can comment and like. That really goes a long way to help support.
Yeah, don't be a fake fan. Be a real fan.
Click the links in the description of this episode to look up Nick or Patreon or all of these other good things. I've been your host, V.
And I was Sean. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.